you know, like tell your story if you want to tell your story now, because it's a better opportunity than it was even 5 years ago. There's more people will come and try and pay you for it than they did before.
Yes. You know, it's like you're a streamer. It's just the same thing.
Yeah.
It's literally the same thing. Because, you know, years ago we didn't have the options that they have now. Like now they can make money just by starting and not even be the biggest streamer. You used to have to get noticed, and ad revenue and all that stuff used to be a factor. Now it's just like add-on. And it's really great because we were talking about this the other week, webtoons, web comics and stuff. Huge market right now. And these are just creators that throw their stuff up there and can land ginormous deals with like Netflix, you know, Crunchyroll or whatever.
Yeah.
And go into these animated films. I have to ask, Scott, you have so much going on. October is a huge month for you. Would you like to see any of your books either on animated or on the big screen? Well, and if so, is that something you're going to push for? I'm
actually like, so right now, I mean, like the books are all placed places, like my indie stuff. So, you know, Witches, I wrote the pilot and I'm working on it. It is animated, even though I'm not supposed to. So it's adult animated with Jock's art being adapted.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. Netflix has been really kind to us in other ways, but Noctera is somewhere. Yeah, what else do I have? American Vampire, Warner Brothers is working on. So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is like I'm excited when somebody takes something and wants to make something better than I could for the medium. I'm not one of those. The thing that I think like maybe has been like, and I'd say this to anybody out there that's a comic writer that is starting out and thinks of like Hollywood as a goal. Don't think of it as a goal. Like think of it as like, at least for me, I think of it as like a bonus where it's like, oh, if I can work on something like Witches where they're giving me the opportunity to adapt it in a way that would expand what I wanted to expand in a comic and didn't have a chance for my own, faults and reasons, then that's great. But if you think about comics as a stepping stone, it's a mistake. Like for me, comics is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And also the people in Hollywood respect that. Like when you come in and say, I'm not looking to use this property as a way of making this my career. I'm looking at it because I care about this one thing I want to make awesome. And I have a career over here. Like there's a certain kind of sigh of relief that comes with that I think like allows for a different creative, freedom. So yeah, I'd love to see everything adapted, but I'm picky about what I choose to involve myself in, only because, I'd rather find trusted partners that are going to take the stuff and like with the Fortnite with Batman Who Laughs. So I got to talk to Donald Mustard and the
amazing.
Fortnite. Yeah, they got in touch and they were like, we'd love to use Batman Who Laughs and this. And I was like, what do you want to do? And they were like, this, and this. And I was like, well, I love it, but what if you did this, because he's even crazier than you think. Like he's this. And they were like, great, what if we do this? And I'm like, that's better than what I was thinking.
That's awesome.
The collaboration, man.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And then Donald because this is a long time ago. This is before, because he sent my kids Fortnite stuff Christmas last year for these talks. Man. So I'm talking about like we started talking, it was like at least it was over a year ago. It was like September or August of 2019. And so he sent all my kids all this amazing Fortnite gift set stuff.
They were happy.
I know, it was the only time they ever thought I was cool. And then now, like, so the point I'm trying to make is that when you believe in what you're doing for fun reasons and real reasons, other people respond to it. If you're looking to be like, how do I use my comic as a springboard to screenwriting? Like it just doesn't work. Like it shows through, it just, it's just like, it'll blow up in your face. So
you're also thinking 2 steps forward instead of taking the first step. It is long. You should have a plan, but you can fall in your face because you're looking too far ahead. Damn. Yeah.
Just be honest. Be honest about what you want. Like, you know what I mean? Like be transparent. If what you want to be is a screenwriter and that, go do screenwriting, like don't.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I believe in that. Like, and it served me well And it's certainly gotten me into hot water at times at DC and those things about trying to be honest about stuff. But I really think it's the best way to proceed ultimately is to be like, these are my priorities. Like, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. Like these things. And, you know, it's, you know, take it or leave it in some way.
Yeah.
Boom. See, Matt, he's speaking the language here, man.
He really is.
Has the answers that's going to relate to all these the viewers out there, whether they want to create comics or they want to stream or they want to do both at the same time, because it's literally the exact same thing. It's funny how all these worlds, you think the world is this big, but when it comes to creation, it's really this big. You know, everyone's going through the same stuff. So to speak on that, I have to know, you have these 3 books, they're on different walks of life. You have sci-fi, you have Western, you have detectives. First of all, who's your inspiration to do all this stuff? And how do you keep up with all the stories without melding them together?
Yeah.
Well, the stories are staggered in the way that, like, I'm only working on 3 books at a time, which is kind of my DC payload. So even though it looks like I'm working on 8 books, I finished kind of the wave of the 3 that are coming out now, and I just started working on the next 3 that I had done a little bit of work on, so people like Dan Panosian and Tula and some of them could at least post stuff to be like, see, it's going. Yeah. So it's kind of waves. It goes in waves of 3, 3, and 2. So it's much more manageable than it looks from the outside. But in terms of like why to do so many things, I mean, there are 2 reasons. The creative reason is because, you know, I felt like I've always told my students, like, you have to be the most exciting writer to yourself. Like, that's it, you know? It's one of the two golden rules of the class are, number 1, you've got to write the story that you would enjoy finding the most that day. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care if it's like, you know, political. I don't care if it's space opera. I don't care if it's memoir. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it has to be the thing that you would be like, I am so grateful I found this comic today. The second rule is just that. It's, you know, the idea of always being true to your, sorry, the sun is like right.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah. Move.
Shift. Just change. No, it's always, it's, you know, it's always being true to yourself in terms of, you know, of what you want to do, big projects. So for me, I mean, I think like with the whole line, it's always being the most exciting writer to yourself, you know, and staying young in your own eyes. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. It matters to you because, you know, when I was on Batman, like when we were finishing, I felt like I had at least 2 more years on Batman. Like I could have done Scarecrow and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but Greg and I both said to each other, like, you feel it, right? Like you feel it's almost getting too easy in the way that you know the formula, you know how to work over. And like, yes, you're making money but it was like, no, let's do other things. And that feeling of wanting to be, you know, wanting to be honest is important. So that thing with Best Jacket was, and it's named after my sons, like Best, and then Jack is my older son who's 14 and Emmett is 10, so Jacket.
That's nice.
And then after we formed it, we had a third son who's the one that I'm like sleep monitoring, who's now 2. His name's Quinn. I cannot figure out how to add a Q to it stuff, so I'm just like, forget it until later. But the goal with it was to be like, how do you be the best writer creatively, you know, when it comes to your own priorities? How do you be the best member of the community, you know, so that you're helping other people? How do you just put on your best jacket, like your big boy pants, you know what I mean? Like, how do you say, like, I've had a good run, you know, I've been really fortunate. Like I definitely worked really hard, but I've had certain privileges and advantages also. How do you pay it forward and say, I want to make the best stuff, take the risks that I always say to my students, take the risk, and then, you know, give other people an opportunity as well. So that's what we're trying to do all around. So for me, the expansive genres, doing all these books was like, you know what? I want to push myself to be uncomfortable. When it comes to the practicality of it, also, like, one thing to know is that I was kind of working on a bunch of the books on the side, paying artists as I could going along when the pandemic hit. And then it became about like, how do you continue these books? I had like about 3 of them up and running. and I can afford about that. You know, once you get past that, it becomes really, really hard. I know that people are like, oh, it's an indie book, but you know, you don't get paid on an indie book until about 3 issues come out usually, you know,
Oh,
from a
wow.
place. Yeah, well, like it depends what you do. If you work at a place that takes the rights to make TV and film, then usually they'll be willing to give you a page rate against that. But
Okay.
the creators that I was working with generally wanted to retain the rights together as co-creators, and that means working at a place like Image or publishing it through other places. And those places generally don't pay you until the issue comes out and you make royalties. So in that case, with all the books I was working on, it became like paying the artist and then being like, oh shit, like we won't get paid as I knew until about issue 3 or 4 comes out, which is when we're working on issue 4 or 5. So what you're talking about, if you're doing an indie book totally without support, is that you're doing about 6 months of work before you get paid.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
5 to 6 months, which is, you know, I did that on Witches, I did it on other things, but as you get older and you have kids or that stuff, it's harder and harder to do, especially for artists. Writers can move around. So when the pandemic hit, and then I was like, how do I pay for these books going forward when I'm worried about, is DC gonna, you know, keep going paying me or whatever? Is Image even going to be open? Are the places that we thought about publishing stuff going to be solvent on the other side?
Oof.
All of that stuff was like up in the air. And then what happened was Comixology, a friend of my editor, Will Dennis, was like, he's the one that greenlit American Vampire, was like, why don't you go to talk to Comixology? You know, they're looking for new people. So I went over and talked to Chip. And what he told me was great. He was just like, look, we're looking for a way of doing books that show how digital and print are confluent. And on the other side of the pandemic, we want to be a stronger industry. And ultimately, if we keep holding digital to this spot where all digital can do is distribute print at the same price, at the same content, you're forcing them to be competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if you make digital subscription based and you make it cheaper to browse comics, but not own them, so that eventually what you do is you love a comic and then you want to get it and you go to the store and you buy it. That's kind of the model that you see in everything like my kids consume, from music to movies to TV to all of it. So that was the thinking, was like, how do we do something that mirrors like the effect of the kind of model that you see all across the cultural landscape. And so there was like the creative, this is why we're doing all these books differently. And then there was the practical, which was like, I don't want to make all these books print because people can't afford them right now. I don't want to do something that's just going to contribute to the bad practices of the industry on the other side of the pandemic, you know, shutdown. How do I do something that says, let's try and move forward in a way that links, you know, digital, print, other things in ways that, you know, help the industry move forward. And so that was really the impetus for doing it this way, you know, because I could have done it a bunch of ways, but that was the thinking, at least.